Hello, my name is Brandon Gray and I'm the Simple Numbers Consulting Team Lead with Crabtree, Rowe Berger. I wanted to spend a few minutes to go through something that I've had several clients ask me to film a video blog about, which is about salespeople. Now, first of all, I'm not trying to bash salespeople. I'm not trying to speak badly about salespeople. However, I think we all can agree that hiring a salesperson is one of the most difficult hires that you can make. I get asked every day, which would you rather hire, a CEO or a salesperson? Without a doubt, hands down, I'd rather hire the CEO. Because in my opinion, it's easier to hire a CEO than a salesperson. So I want to give you a little bit of insight, some things we've picked up from a few of our clients who have went down the path of growing and needing to add a salesperson or salespeople to their organization. Go through a few lessons that they've learned and hopefully give you a tip or two that can help you be successful in that. So a couple years ago, the economy really started to take off. And folks were needing to beef up their sales team. Now, for a lot of our clients, and to this point, the entrepreneur, the founder of the company, had been the primary salesperson. Now, I will add that all of our data shows that the number one thing that an entrepreneur can do to help their company thrive and continue to be successful is to oversee sales. Now, sure, you may get to the point in time to where you're not making every sales call. However, you do need to stay responsible for sales. So don't ever try to just completely turn sales over to someone else. Always keep control of that function. Now, that said, a few years ago, like I was saying, the economy really started to take off and people needed to beef up their sales team, their sales efforts. And so here's usually how the conversation would go. I would be on a consulting call with one of our clients and they would say, hey Brandon, we've been talking about sales, that it's been growing, and I was at this conference just a few weeks ago and I bumped into someone I knew. They've been in the industry for a while and I have found them. I mean, here's the deal. They where they're at, they took them from under $1 million to $200 million in sales while they were there. They've got they got the pedigree, they have the resume. Sure, they're going to be a little bit more expensive, define a little bit, but they're going to be a little bit more expensive than what we were anticipating having to spend, but this one's worth it. I mean, this is the answer to the problem that we have. And so they had hired the person, got the track record, have the pedigree, have the system, have the history, everything going for them. They bring them into the organization. Month two later, I'd have a consulting call with the client and say, hey, how's the new sales guy working out? Well, things are going good. They've already started making a little bit of traction. I think this is really going to work. So another month go by, I have my next consulting call. Well, tell me, how are things going now with our new sales guy? Just, it's an expensive hire. Just wanted to make sure that we're being productive. Well, we're still laying some groundwork, but I think it's really going to work out. And then a month or two later, I would revisit it and say, hey, tell me, what's the deal again? I'm not seeing top line sales change a whole lot. So do we have things in the pipeline? What's going on here? Well, I don't know that it's going to work. I think I just made a bad hire. And they end up parting ways. And so I saw this repeated time and time again. It wasn't just like an isolated incident. And so I have to start investigating. Anytime I start seeing a trend in our client base, what was driving that? And so I started asking questions. And what I want to share with you today is what I found as I was discussing this with our clients. And so we would do a little bit of a postmortem, and here's what we came up with. So the first thing, whenever we dug into it, the client would always say, well, I just made a bad hire. Maybe the person wasn't up to the level that I felt that they were, or that I was believing they were based upon our interviews and what have you. It's just the wrong hire. Well, you hear that a couple times and you kind of go, I just don't think, many of our clients use things like the top grading approach to hiring, and so I just couldn't really buy that in every case these people were making bad hires. And so we dug a little bit deeper. Here's what we found. One of the reasons that the hire did not work is because they were not a cultural fit. Now, think about the way your organization operates. Is your organization a group of hunters that goes out, kills it, brings it back in, goes out, kills it, and brings it back in? Or are they a group of farmers that grows it, nurtures it, slowly over time builds up that client base? In many cases, our clients kind of fit into the farmers category. And so what they did is they went into the marketplace and they had hired this ace salesperson who went in, who was a hunter, made the kill, brought them back in, went out for the next one. Made the kill, brought them back in, went out for the next one. Everything started out okay. But after a couple of months, it really started ruffling feathers. Things weren't maybe working out as well, expectations weren't being met and what have you. And eventually it was just two different types of personalities, and culturally it just didn't work out. So before you hire a salesperson, make sure that they indeed are going to fit in with your culture. Secondly, and I think this was actually the biggest issue that we saw as we discussed it with our clients, is that they would bring the new salesperson in, and of course it's the honeymoon and everybody's excited and they're going to take us from where we are today to tenfold within 3 years and yada yada. And you went to the salesperson and you said, okay, glad to have you on the team, man, this is going to be fun, so start selling. And the salesperson would look back at you, the entrepreneur, and would say, okay, where's my list? Where are the leads at? Because where I was at before, marketing would give me a group of leads. Many times they'd already been pre-qualified. I'd set up a meeting with them. I'd go do a presentation. I'd close the deal. I'd go wash, rinse, and repeat. And the entrepreneur would say back to the salesperson, well, we don't really have a list of leads. I kind of thought, I've always generated my own leads, and then I from there worked on that. So I thought you would probably do the same. And the salesperson, obviously it's their first couple of days on the job. They're most likely going to say, yeah, that's not a problem. I can do that all day. That's not any issue. And so they'd go back and they would very quickly get out their contact list and they'd start trying to, okay, well, I need to generate leads. What I need to do. There really hadn't been a lot of marketing going on here perhaps. And so how do I get over that hump? And that was just not an area that they were built to excel in. And so they really struggled at generating the lead and closing the sale. Great closer, but weren't great perhaps on the other end of the spectrum. So what had happened is that there were unclear expectations. It just never had been discussed. You assumed that they would do one thing, they assumed they would do another, yet neither of you had communicated what really the strength was of each of you. And the third thing was that if you made the right hire, you had clear expectations, the sales process had just never been established. And I think, this is another one of those top reasons that when the entrepreneur many times is leading the sales charge, then where is the sales process? That's right, it's in their head. And so they've just been doing it so long, it's second nature. By the way, no one sells your company the way you sell your company. And so it just came natural. You didn't need a formalized process. And so when someone new from the outside came in to start that sales function, there was no path to follow, and perhaps they had always been accustomed to, hey, I know I have to make 50 calls in order to get 10 appointments, in order to get 5 proposals, in order to get 2 closes. And none of that had ever been formalized. None of that process had ever been put into place. And so they were kind of turned loose to go and work their magic without really giving them the treasure map. So to recap, the reasons we saw that folks did not succeed, a handful of times, sure, you just made the wrong hire. Sometimes it wasn't a cultural fit. Many times there were unclear expectations, and finally, the last thing is that there never was an established process for that person to follow so that they could thrive. So before you make the next sales hire, be sure that you've covered those bases. If there's not a sales process in place, go ahead and create one. Make sure that there's one that they can follow. Have a clear expectation of what you expect out of that person. Make sure they're a cultural fit. Now, before I finish up, I want to give you one more thing that can help. Instead of hiring the ace salesperson, we see that many times it can work, but also many times it's a swing and a miss, and at times a very costly miss. One technique that we have found is the concept of adding instead a sales admin. And what I mean by that is that much of the sales process is administrative. Setting up meetings, sending proposals, writing proposals, following up with contacts. That can all be done by an administrative person. So, what we've seen a lot of our clients excel in doing is to find someone new in their career who has the personality to be a great salesperson, who fits in culturally with your organization, and they shadow you. They follow you, they go to meetings with you, they become your sales admin. They set up the meetings, they follow up on proposals. The thing that they don't do is they don't lead the meeting, they don't actually close the deal, but they handle all of the busy work in between. That leverages you a little bit more, allows you to perhaps get to the next level, develop the system and process, and guess what? By the way, that new sales admin is growing in their career. They're watching the way that you sell, and you're actually training them on your way to conduct sales. So then whenever they are fully mature and ready to turn loose, you've got a salesperson ready. This has been Brandon Gray with with Crabtree, Rowe Berger, giving you a few tips on hiring salespeople.